Hey Emilee, hey Bianca, how you guys doing?
Man, I'm great. I'm really excited to be here today.
Great, happy to be talking to y'all today.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. Emilee with two E. That's my first time. I'm francophone. Is that something that you see out there? I thought it was like a Y normally in Emily.
Normally, it is a Y. My parents, we just do things differently. My name is actually a blending of both of my grandmother's names, my grandmother Emma and my grandmother Azalee. So they took the EM from Emma and the ILEE from Azalee and made Emily.
That's
I love it.
beautiful.
I
I
just love
appreciate the
it.
story. Got a little piece of both of them.
Yeah, it's perfect. Like I do believe that actually like there's actually a piece of us like in a piece of us that goes down like to our the next generation. So I love that you put that in your you had that in your name. I think that's pretty deep actually. I love it. I have four kids. We always choose the name, so I can't do it right now. But we might do it with the. But I might try to start that movement actually for my grandkids or something like that one day.
Hey, there's
But
lot of
I'm not.
power in a name.
Yeah, I'm not there yet though. No, no grandkids for now. So you're in Harlem. Telling me right now. So obviously we're gonna talk about Harlem a bit because like basketball is it was the basketball mecca at some point. But
Sure.
before Harlem, you were. I would love to know like before we start with the purest sports moment stuff. What is your background in sports so we can actually know a bit more about some stuff.
Yeah. So I was born in Newark, New Jersey, so right across the water from the city. And my family, we moved to the South when I was pretty young. So I was about four. We moved to Alpharetta, Georgia, which was like a very interesting change because we went from a very diverse brown Newark, New Jersey to a very suburban white Alpharetta, Georgia. Um, Lived there for a couple of years. It's actually where I started playing basketball. So I started playing basketball when I was five. My dad was my first coach. And it was just one of those things that I kind of fell in love with because I'm the youngest of three and the only girl. So my brothers played all types of sports, and really, I just
Yeah.
wanted to be like my brothers, right? Like I wanted to do everything that they did. It was kind of one of those anything you can do, I can do better type situations.
Okay.
And that's kind of what
At
ended up happening.
five.
I mean, like, honestly, it feels like my entire life. It's just like whatever they were doing, I was the youngest, right? Like I wanted to do it too. Like, even like I'm sure when I was little, they're walking around the house, running, etc. I'm like, I was probably like in the chair, just like wanting to get out, like ready to go. I've always looked up to my brothers and just super thankful for the ways in which they helped support me as I grew up. And when we left Georgia, I was 8 years old. We moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, which was another like shift for me because we went from somewhat of a more affluent suburb to now more of like middle class suburb. And it was interesting because I found myself engaging with now a lot more black and brown kids in ways that, to an extent, my suburban start to basketball didn't prepare me for. Right. So when you're playing with the white kids and you're like, I'm pretty tall. Like you're the kind of bigger, and girls develop faster than boys. You're bigger than a lot of people, etc. Then you go to a neighborhood where like now there are other girls and boys same size as you, strong as or stronger than you, and it's like, okay, so like this YMCA basketball is very different than Alpharetta, Georgia YMCA basketball. And so you had to get tough, right? You had to get tough. And, I remember in it, like every house that we lived in North Carolina, we almost either always had a goal in the driveway or we always had a court somewhere local that we could like walk to. And shout out to my middle brother, Kai, he was kind of the one that was like, he took a strong love to basketball as well. And so he really like kind of was my first trainer, right? Like he would have me outside late at night with like, I don't know if you remember like the Jumpman shoes on, right? Like my usually like strap those joints
Yeah.
onto your shoes and work on your calf raises and stuff like yeah, the big like the cushion joint. We'd be like outside. He had me shooting jump shots with those things on, like training me like I was in high school. It was crazy.
So
And
you got that brother. You got that type of brother.
yeah, like well, he's 2 years older
Wow.
than me. Like there's
Two.
a 5 year gap between us. My oldest brother's 5 years older, and then Kai is 2 years older than me. And
Okay.
so Kai, like we're kind of close in age, but there still is that difference, and especially like him being a boy, he's bigger, stronger, faster, etc. And he was the one that I was really trying to keep up with. My oldest brother Jay, it's kind of like I get kind of similar to like getting a part of both my grandmother's names. Like I have a part of both of my brothers. Where like my oldest brother Jay is the intellectual one, my brother Kai was like the athletic one. And so
Yeah.
I have both pieces from them as well. So it was like with Jay, we'd be like reading books and studying and doing puzzles and Legos and all of that. With Kai, we're out in the backyard running drills, playing games. Like, I remember the first time, I think I was like 13 or 14. Like the first time I beat him 1-to-1, and he was like, wait a minute. Like he had been kind of like training me. Like, honestly, I'm like, you taught me how to beat you because I played with you like probably every day from like 5 to 13, 14 years old. And like the first time
wait, you beat out your brother like 2 years older than you at 13?
I think I was like 13 or 14. I remember he was like he was either trying out or like decided he didn't want to play high school ball. I was getting ready for the team, and it was like either that first summer or that summer after my 9th grade year. We were like playing 21, and I put a couple buckets on him. He was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" And it was kind of like just this progression of like I really fell in love with it. And over time, I played AAU, middle high school. My high school teams. Shout out to the Southeast Raleigh Bulldogs, just phenomenal program. We had many a run deep into the state tournament. My last year, I know we were supposed to win. I've let it go. But I think that there's been, just many opportunities where I've really had a great way that sports has just shown me who I can be and who I am. And it's taught me a lot about hard work, et cetera. So I really played basketball from like age 5 to age 20. So I went to North Carolina.
You play college after high school?
Yeah. So when I left Southeast Raleigh, I went to North Carolina A&T on a full ride.
Did you get like big, like, were you like a big recruit, like out of like, because I'm guessing North Carolina is like, I know it's a basketball like state, like, so it's all about basketball over there. So did you get like looks to go? I don't know, like is like Duke, were like Duke, North Carolina, and all those kind of university. Are they like recruiting like kids like you back in the days?
Man, I wish that would have been the dream. So
Yeah.
I think the way that our high school program was set up, we got a lot of great exposure, and so I did have some looks outside of North Carolina. No looks from like a UNC, Duke, et cetera, like the large D1s. I had a look from what was it, like the U.S. Army at West Point. There was another small college. I think it was still Division I in Connecticut. I was seriously considering going to Delaware State. I had a look there, and then North Carolina A&T came calling. And I think one thing for me, especially being a Black woman, my parents met at Cornell University back in 60s, 70s. I don't know how many years ago. And one thing that like they always inspired upon my brothers and I was just a really deep love of our culture. And so honestly, when I was looking at schools, I didn't want to go to a predominantly white institution. I didn't want to go to an Ivy League. Like I really wanted to go to an HBCU, and I learned a lot about that, especially in my junior and senior year in high school. Because in North Carolina, you got Central and Durham, you've got St. Aug and Raleigh. Like there's so many that are right around in that area, Shaw, et cetera. And so I really wanted to like have an at bat at going to an HBCU. I think I had a really fortunate upbringing. I think I was exposed to a whole lot, but I really wanted to have a real deep exposure into my own culture. And so for me, at the end of the day,
that's something like I'm from Canada, so like I don't. It's new to me. Like HBCU is not new, but like I wish like when I was actually growing up, as a basketball player, that I knew about it, because in Canada, obviously, like all you hear about like is like that big like D1 like schools and stuff like that, and like I was like in high school and after that in prep school, and I was like looking for universities, and I ended up like going to like a Canadian university. I was really happy about it. That I was with my wife over there, so I was like that was like a love and basketball story actually with us. Like that exact.
I love
that
it.
Movie Love and Basketball.
Who doesn't? That's just the best movie ever.
But that's like after Jerry Maguire, that's like the best movie ever. But,
debatable.
I think it beats Jerry Maguire, but
I'm like debatable.
I did watch Jerry Maguire last week, and I was like crying.
You can still cry, but I don't know if it's an overall better movie.
She's like, you can have your taste. It's just wrong.
I'll go back, but like the thing with the Love and Basketball, and I don't want to go too much about it. But first, it's actually the same story as me and my wife. That's like Love and Basketball. That's exactly my life. Okay, the only thing is at the end, I'm the kind of professional athlete, and she's not a professional athlete. But in love and basketball, that's the contrary. That's it. But the only thing is that what's the name of the actor, the man?
Omar Epps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's not good at basketball. So that's the one. No, that's the one knock on the film on the movie. He's not good. Like he's not moving well on the basketball court.
Or maybe it was a story ahead of its time, and it wasn't really about Omar becoming the hero. It was about a woman getting her moment to shine and being supported by a strong black man. We need more of that. Is just what I'm saying.
I love it, but what I mean is like as a sport movie, like the woman was really. I thought she was really good as an actress, like, and really good at basketball. And I still remember that she took a charge, like in the practice and stuff like that. And I just love that movie. It's actually a
classic.
Great movie. I might listen to it like tonight with my wife.
I feel like you need to go rewatch that. Like,
yeah, I might.
It's a perfect date night movie for you guys.
Exactly.
I would have loved, like, back in the days to know more about the HBCU thing, because I think that's something that, like, and once you, like, grew up more as a black man, that's something that, why do we have to go to that, like, D1 stuff, like, and try to, I wouldn't say, like, make money for those schools, like, but kind of, like, and I'm kind of tired right now, like, I don't watch NCAA that much, but I don't understand why people don't go now more and more. I know there's a movement to HBCU right now.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling like there should be much more, like, I don't know. That's just my feeling. I know Chris Paul is doing some great, amazing stuff. He's from North Carolina too.
A lot of great people are
doing amazing stuff with the HBCU. So yeah, so you went to HBCU school?
Yeah, I went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University out of Greensboro, North Carolina, affectionately known as A&T. That was a great experience. I think for me, what I also learned within my time there, though, is that, like, I love basketball, but it really gave me, the school gave me a lot of exposure to other things that really opened my eyes to other things that I actually really, really loved and wanted to do. And so I didn't finish all 4 years playing at A&T. I actually only played my full first season, and then played about half of my second season. And it was at that point that I really wanted to dive deeper into academics. And so I began to leverage, I leveraged that seat that I had at the school to start really networking out. And honestly, that's kind of where I began my foray into coaching basketball. So now at this point I coach. So when I was in college, I remember I started off kind of like the way I started off, coaching like a 5 and 6 year old team at the local YMCA. And can I curse?
I curse all the time.
Okay, great. And that shit was hard, right? Like 5 and 6, I was like, y'all just good. Y'all don't listen. Y'all don't do it. And it's interesting because I was studying education. And so for me, it was the perfect crossroads of child development and sports to coach kids, to give them an opportunity, to teach them skills, etc. Because for me, I think playing a sport is just so much more than the actual hard skills you learn of dribbling, shooting, etc. It really is about learning about teamwork. It's learning about, like, self-control. It's learning about pushing yourself. It's learning about grit and effort. And so, like, midway through my college career, I was like, actually, I think I don't want to play anymore. Like, I want to go really dive deeply into other aspects of my life and what I'm capable of. And I have a lot of friends who, either went semi-pro or went pro overseas, some in the States. And I'm just like, I love that that's your calling, but I learned that it's not mine. And, like, I learned that I want my impact to be very different than playing a sport. I want to really be on the ground, boots on the ground. And that's why right now I work in education. Like, I want to be there with children doing this work, supporting teachers and staff, to create opportunities for more kids the same way that people created opportunities for me when I was growing up.
How important do you think it is that athletes have a conversation around maybe that aha moment of, it's been great being a basketball player, but I've been doing this, as you said, for 15 years, right? And I had this opportunity to go explore different outlets, different things, different creativities. How important do you think that is to have conversations with athletes who have been in a similar position as you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is so critical. And what I like loved and hated about playing college ball is I realized that unless an athlete really sought that out, right? Like, having those conversations around what else is there to you, it's very frequently just brushed under the rug, especially in the NCAA, like college, like we kind of like that's our job. That's our life. Mm-hmm. And I love that now we see the NCAA And really a lot more schools just doing a lot more to make sure that they have robust programming that's intentional around showing athletes, like, let's talk about money management. Let's talk about careers outside, like that can be related to sports, but may not be playing the actual sport. Let's talk about ways in which you can be in your community and giving back. And I think that is, like, to me, it's kind of like, and again, I work in education. It feels like almost everything should have some kind of curriculum, but I feel like being a college athlete did not have that. Or like the curriculum was weights, training, like physical therapy, ice baths, practice, travel, and games. Like that's your curriculum. And within that, there isn't necessarily intentional space created for you to really learn more about who you are and who you want to be and what impact you can have beyond just your sport. Because you can have so much impact within your sport. I think that's like when I know when I was an athlete, that was really, really lacking. Like, how do I think? And I think, honestly, between my parents, great mentors that I had, like that's how I kind of came to that moment at such a young age to be like, this is going to be really, really hard. And like, it's going to be really difficult. And I'm talking about losing a scholarship mid-year and figuring out a way to pay for school and all the things. But wow. I think I had to like, not like grow up in the moment, but I think there was a real moment of like, what really makes you happy? And if it's not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the weight room and do all this, and then go to class and get all A's, and then like try to be involved and have a social life, like what really brings you joy? And for me, it really was those moments that I was in class, working with peers, volunteering in the community. A part of my program, which was really dope, was that we had like an on-campus child development lab. And when I was talking to my academic advisor, it was going to be really difficult for me to engage in that part of the work because those hours in the lab were always during practice or weights or something. And so it's like, how do I even finish my degree program that I'm really passionate about and finish it with fidelity, right? And finish it really well and learn a lot and be really successful on the court. And it came down to like, what do you really care more about? So it's a really difficult decision for anybody to make, I think, to leave something that you love, because when you lose something that is so interwoven into who you are, it really it's like somebody dying, right? Like a part of you is pretty much dying, and you have to experience that sense of how do you go through the grief and the grieving process of letting it go and releasing it. And I hate it for some people because they don't get a chance to do that and don't get support when they have to do that, and end up, wasting months, years of their life, trying to grasp at straws of something that's no longer there. And like they know it's no longer there, but it's their comfort zone. And so I think that there's a real need to support athletes in that way.
It's funny what you said, because I'm actually wearing right now my Pure Athlete shirt, and what you just
Love
said
it.
is just that's for me a pure athlete is just what you said. Like the last 5 minutes you talking, I was like, that's a pure athlete. Okay, that's someone who's just trying to maybe use sport or understand that sport is way beyond that win and loss and stuff. And one of the things that actually, when I was like growing up, and yes, I was like focusing on basketball, but my fifth year of college over here, I became really, really in tune about like I wanted to help like an orphanage in Uganda using sport. And actually like create like a DVD and like start like while I was like studying like studying like physical therapy studies and stuff like that. So I was actually being an entrepreneur, and because I knew like back like in my mind like I was like a kind of I'm a businessman. I'm someone who loves to do like creative stuff and stuff like that. And I was in college, and I was not encouraged actually to be that. Like, and I think it's not a knock on my college coach, because I think like everybody's like old school about stuff and just got to be focused on your stuff. But I do feel that what you said about like the curriculum, if I had the help from people to say, you know what, man, you have like a great network, you got a great personality, you got a great aura about yourself, you're the most known basketball player from like miles and miles around. Like, why not use your platform to do things, and let me help you as like a class in college, or two class in college, to learn all the different skills. Like, so now I have to learn everything like from like the get-go. Like, I have to learn how to do like the video editing, how to do the social media stuff, how to do now. Like, there's so much stuff in business that I have to learn by myself. But if I could have learned that like in college, just like 1 or 2 classes, say, hey, this is how you can market yourself as an athlete, and you can have a voice and stuff like that. I would have loved to do that, like just like as soon as I finished, because I just like when I was finishing school, like I did go like on physical therapy, and after like 1 year, I was like, you know what? I knew like I studied that for nothing, not nothing because I love to get my brain going, but I knew I was not going to be like a physical therapist all my life. And then after 1 year, I was like, you know what? I have to drop this thing, and I'll start coaching. And then, but there was always like something missing, and the thing that was missing actually was the entrepreneur, artistic, like that I didn't develop in college. Like I just like realized like 5 years ago, I'm an artist. I'm someone who loves like to be an artist. Like, and I might not be good at drawing because I was like taking too much time on my jumper when I was younger and just like doing other stuff. But I'm an artist. Like I think like an artist. Like, and I wish back in the days that somebody told me that, you know what, Dom, take this class, take this like business class while you're in college, and take this like artistic like class because you're an artist. You're a guy that has a lot of creativity, and don't be just like a basketball player. And when I finished like college, people were like kind of surprised, and always surprised when they talk to me like about like how deep like my Purest project is and stuff like that. And because they always think, oh yeah, you like that good basketball, like the greatest basketball player from Quebec, like this. So you're a basketball player, like yeah, I'm a basketball player who just like decided to drop basketball for inventing a sport. I just don't care that much about basketball. Like I love basketball, like it's just my true first love, but in sports, but I'm so much more now, and I wish, just like you said, that I had this like college experience that I don't need much, like but that 2 or 3 classes or just that mentorship to say, hey, you know, Don, like let's do this thing. So yeah, I feel you on that, like because it could have saved me about like 7 years of my life. So let's go back a bit to your childhood a little bit. So I know you talk about your brother and some of that. So I love that kind of stuff. I didn't grow up with siblings, so that's something I'm missing. But now I have 4 kids, so I have a.
You made up for it.
Good.
Exactly. He's living his dreams out now.
Through his children.
So what is your purest sports moment? When you think back about sport, is there like some moments that you say, hey, this is why like I love sport, like this is it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, I would really have to say it was that high school basketball team, that high school basketball experience. You know, I think, you know, I'm still super connected with a lot of my teammates from high school. Like we're like a small family, and something about that group, it was just like, honestly, like being at practice, playing in games. It was like poetry. It was like music. Like we would just flow. And I think a lot of that, you know, is of course due to the coaches and having clear structures and creating great spaces for us. But something about the chemistry of that group was just, it was a family, right? And we would challenge each other, and push each other.
Coaching.
Yeah.
You're the first one I hear about it, because I've been coaching high school, and I've always been trying to create that kind of family experience. That's something that was really, really important back in the days when I was coaching. But you're the first one I hear talk about like the kind of deep love, like with like the teammates and stuff like that. And I'm wondering, like, what is that the coaching did? Because I'm guessing that the coach might be special a little bit. Like just hearing you, like, was it like a special coach?
I mean, I think my coaches were amazing. It was Coach Powell, Coach Jones, and Coach Baker, and I think the 3 of them had such an interesting dynamic with us as high school girls that allowed us all to really be our true selves as young women. And to an extent, it was kind of like good cop, bad cop, and like mom, right? Like each coach kind of played a role. And to the I honestly say, like, for me, the most impactful was definitely Coach Baker. And like to this day, I like we still have like a check-in call like once a quarter. Like that's my girl. And I think that there's something about, you know, when you have people who care deeply about the sport and they all come together with good intentions, with clear structures, you can do really powerful things. And that's one thing that I take now with me into the way that I coach. When I work with I specifically work with middle school girls. I did some work doing AAU with like middle and high school, but I found that I really love that developmental age of middle school, because that is where you can really seed those lessons that students need to better understand who they are as young people and as young humans in this world. And also,
middle school. Middle school. I'm Canadian. Sorry.
Oh, so the way
Primary school.
the way our American school structure works is like elementary school is like kindergarten through fifth grade. Middle school is sixth through eighth grade, which is like the most awkward years of anybody's lives. You're like
Yeah.
12
So
to like 14.
my oldest daughter, so like 11 to 14.
Exactly. And then you have high
Gotcha.
school
Okay.
that's like ninth through 12th grade, right?
Okay.
And so, and like, I also like definitely also shout out my middle school coach. I play, it's like strange how the world just comes back around full circle. I had the honor of playing for Lavelle Moten in middle school, who is now like, he just had a special on ESPN Plus for the work that he's doing coaching at North Carolina Central.
Wow.
And I think about like all these super dope coaches I had during my career that really, they all helped shape me into the woman that I am today. And in many, many ways, I think that it's so integral that you have coaches who are intentional in the way that they operate with you. It's not just about the sport. It's about how are you building these small humans and how are you putting them in situations where when the heat is rising, they know how to rise to the occasion. One thing that Coach Baker used to say that I still say all the time is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And what I know about our high school team is that we were super fucking talented. Like that group of girls, it was almost unfair when we went to a gym sometimes. Like I remember one summer league we played where we brought 4 players and we beat a team of like 10 people by like 60. Like it was disgusting. We were running presses with 4 people. We were not getting tired. It was almost like some Super Saiyan type shit, right? Where it's like, who are these black girls from? And then like we weren't all from Southeast Raleigh because it was a magnet school. So we were coming from North Raleigh, East Raleigh, like you can kind of cherry pick to build your program, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what the coaches did, went and recruited the best people from across the city to build this team. Mm-hmm. But they were so intentional with the way that they ran practices, with the way that they had conversations with us, the way we used to eat together before games, the way we used to pray before everything that we did. Like they were just so intentional about creating that space. I think we had it kind of built a culture of like, either you're in the family or you're not, and you get to make the choice. And I think what was great is that we didn't want to do it for the coaches. We built that family, wanted to do it for each other. And so when we were rocking and rolling, like we were rocking and rolling. When we were pummeling teams, literal, and that is the literal word I would use because that is what we did. When we were pummeling teams with like full court press for 30 minutes out of a 32-minute basketball game, like it was all because everything was just so systematic and so intentional. And I think that coaching matters. And when you bring together the right group of people with an open mind as players, and they lean into that structure and they lean into the like adults that care about them, then you can have really amazing things happen. Like it's not a mistake that Gino does what he does at UConn.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake.
I think people men should take 1 year of their life to coach high school basketball girls. I did it once. To this day, it was probably my best year of coaching ever. I love all the teams that I did and stuff like that. I just love them. I just love to coach. I'm just born to coach. I just love to coach. But coaching high school girls is so much different because just what you said. Like sometimes when you're coaching guys, you're coaching basketball. But when you're coaching girls, you're really, really, really coaching girls that are playing basketball. It's like if you come in the gym and you just start talking about basketball and who are we playing and stuff like that, they're gonna whatever. You have to talk to them. Girls, you have to be intentional and you have to be intelligent when you talk to them. And if you do this, if you respect them enough, as human being, that's when actually just the flow of you that's what I realized when I was coaching. I was like, if you respect them as athlete, and that's one of the things that we do a panel pretty soon about women. How can we just change the culture completely in sports right now? But I believe that if you treat women as athletes and treat you them as human being before talking about just the sport itself, that's where the flow of what you're talking. And I'm guessing that's why you had such a fun memory, because the memory you have right now, it gives me chills. I'm
yeah.
Wow, this is I want my girls to be. I have 3 girls. I want them to to be able like to like have this kind of a relationship with their coach and teammates like all their life. Like it's way more than just like winning losses. Like, I love that.
Yeah,
100%. And it's crazy. Like, I'm getting emotional sitting here because I can, without a doubt, say, you know, my two boarding school coaches, Davey and Talbot, they saved my life multiple times. Not even being a high school student and going through what you go through in high school as a woman, understanding a sport where, especially in hockey, there isn't a professional level. So it is college and then that's it. And understanding you know, Emilee, you talk about this grief that you have to go through. And, you know, they talk to you about that and the role of being both a parent and a guardian. And, you know, those lessons, once again, you have that one quote from your coach. The quote that my coach always told me was, control what you can control. And it just sits in your head for the rest of your life. And so for me, being someone that has had these phenomenal coaches, that has not only dictated my athletic career, but dictated the way that I approach business, my relationships, everything in between.
Yep.
I mean, for me, that's why I went back and got my coaching license, because I was like, if I could do a percentage of what my coaches, chills. Could have done for me. And, you know, I've said this to them many times, but they truly saved my life multiple times. Yeah. And if I could do even an inch of that for another girl, I've done something special. So was that kind of a similar feeling that got you back into coaching, of kind of giving back to that feeling that you received in that time? And I would love to hear more about, the choice of middle school, because especially as a young woman, as a young athlete, a lot of the time you might be taller than the boys or stronger than the boys. And this is also where you're starting to form, a lot of the time, just all girl teams as well.
Yeah.
So would love to hear your choice behind that.
No, I think, one, like, that's absolutely why I wanted to coach. Right, like I got to marry two things that I love, right? Which, to be frank, it's like leadership development and basketball. Because I truly believe that a good coach is not teaching you to be a good athlete; it's teaching you to be a good person. And Dom, what you shared around, you know, like coaching women versus coaching men, a part of me feels like that's what's missing with coaching men. Like, there's no reason
100%.
we shouldn't do those things with men, but we make the assumption that boys don't need it, and then we end up with young men who don't know how to process their emotions. We end up with young men who don't know how to like navigate and work in teams, because they're a lot of them are being coached in an individual way. And I think it takes a very humble man, and I think a very secure man, to actually be that person that's willing to be vulnerable and go down to that level with those boys and those young men, where it's not that being a man is being tough, being a man is being human. And when you're human, you're going to have to experience digging into those emotions and like leading when it's hard and not always thinking about yourself and things like that. But to speak to your...
Men in sports are so dumb. Seriously, they're dumb. Like,
we can talk about this all day. I'm an educator at heart. So like, for you to say men in sports are dumb, I'm like, I think that's because men in sports haven't been challenged to think. And if we put them in situations with coaches that aren't going to challenge them to think, there's no other option but for them to stay dumb.
Yeah, I mean, like, some of the time, like they get so mad. Like, I think, like, guys get so mad with like the win and losses stuff, and they rarely see like the big picture of sport. Like, it really, just what you said, like, it really takes like an educator to be out there and say, hey guys, and let's talk about sport. And I do believe that they should. Like, I think we should like teach a little bit less of the rah-rah for the men's, and just like you said, like having them like be coached a bit like women. And I think that women can teach us so much more like in sports than than what we take right now. Like, and I just vibe so much with what she's saying right now, because like there's so much thing right now that I feel that, and we can have a different conversation another time about that.
We can, because what you're talking about,
we can go on.
Because what you're talking about is literally the personification of what just happened at the NCAA, where the men got everything and the women got nothing, right? Like, these are entrenched systems that have created this mindset that men need everything but don't need to process anything, and that women have to carry the burden of all the emotions that allow men to go forth and essentially reinforce this white male patriarchal capitalistic society and do whatever they want to do. But I'll come back. We could do a whole second episode.
What you're gonna do? Like, actually, we're gonna try to get you on a panel. I don't know if you have to work like at what time, but I'll send you a date on some of the panel.
Send me some time. We keep talking.
Maybe like let me send you like a curveball, and because I like to
Well,
hear you
wait.
talk like all day.
But can I speak to Bianca's question though about middle school?
Yes, about middle school women.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
And so when it comes down to like where do you make the insertion point for supporting someone in their development, those middle school years, from a brain development perspective, are insanely critical because the human brain is shifting, molding, adjusting in ways. They're experiencing new emotions. They're having new chemical imbalances as they're heading into puberty. And that's just such a critical space and time that I believe it's important. Who is at my house right now? Hold on, sorry.
Welcome to New York, where the ringers are probably almost as piercing as an ambulance noise.
Pretty much. And I'm just going to they can just deliver that package later. I believe it's so critical because of the developmental stage that humans are at in those prime years of like 11 to 14. That's when you need to have really critical, really direct mentors in your life. It took some. Let me just listen in.
No, we're good. Yeah. Let's just pause. There's no problem.
Just chilling.
Sorry, guys. That's like the one sound in my house I can't turn off or control ever.
Whose basketball post is there like, just behind you?
Oh, that's my son. I have a 3-year-old.
I love. Do you play it with it yourself? I totally would.
Yes, I have shooting contests by myself in the house. Like I'll go across the living room and I'm like shooting across the house.
I love that so much.
You got to stay warm. You got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Love it.
But when it comes to the middle school girls, I think that age is just so critical. You have to connect with children when they're in a developmental stage to be able to take those lessons in. And that really helps form and mold who they will become. And so for me, working with the middle school age group was so critical for specifically with girls, because I remember my middle school experience. I remember feeling awkward. I remember not feeling confident. I remember having just like struggles with like my own like body management and sweating in different places now. It's just like, it's too much. And you need people that are going to have direct conversations with you about what's happening to you and how you can navigate that. And I think what's also important is build confidence in who you are. Because if you don't have that strong foundation of confidence, by the time you get to 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you may be doing behaviors that you don't need to be doing. You may have missed opportunities that could have really shifted the trajectory of your life. And so for me to take in this middle school age, I think it's so important because this is when, and I work with Black and brown girls, of course. This is when Black and brown girls need straight talk. Period. Period. They need to be told, you're being ridiculous. Why aren't you listening? You need to sit down. Give me your rationale for this. They need to build the skills to talk about what's happening to them because in so many ways they get silenced. And so for me, I chose that age group because I think it's so important to bring voice to those young women. I think it's important that they learn structure. They learn how to lean on each other as women because basketball is not a one-man sport. You can't do anything by yourself. You'll be exhausted. You will fall all the way out. And I've had girls that I'm like, I can teach you that lesson. You want to do this by yourself? Great. Sometimes I go like Coach Carter. I'm like, yeah, you got 100 suicides. See me when you're done. Assistant coach, keep track of the number. And by the time they get to 40, they're already crying. And I'm like, let's have a conversation. Like, I don't make them get to 100. But it's like, you want to go, like, go be by yourself and let me know how that's going to help you. And so then, like, for some of them, you have to be a little bit harder to break that shell because in many ways, New York is a hard city to grow up in. They're exposed to so much so early. And it's like, I want to give you a little bit of innocence, but also toughen you up. And so I love that age group. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I actually don't like coaching high school as much because they think they know everything. And I'm actually like, y'all don't know anything. You're so close to being free that I'm afraid if you don't listen to me, then you're going to make some real mistakes. But in some situations, it's like high school for me feels like almost too late of an insertion point for some of these children.
Do you feel maybe it might be different for the men though, because from because I have a daughter I would have loved you. I might send you my daughter for a summer at some point. But
my hourly rate is not cheap.
Yeah, I'm alright. She's actually starting to learn English right now in school. Like, so she's in English right now and she loves it. And she actually started basketball too. She started late a bit, but she loves it actually. I coached her last year, and she's right into what you just said. Like, you can see like she doesn't understand herself, and like she's kind of in this a sweet spot where there's so much information right now. What is a friend? Like, she doesn't know what's a friend right now, because it's like everything's like it's her universe is like shattered right now. Like, I can every night, like I go in her bed and it's like she's always like, oof, like there's something like this. It's always something.
The weight of the world.
But I've been coaching also like men's and all that, and I feel that like for the men, for the guys over here, I don't know, like it's just me, but it seems like what you just said to me, it's for me, it's like 4 years after that, like for what I see, like before that, for the men's, the guys, they're just like playing, like they're just like I like to play. They just want to play, and then when they get to, let's say 17 or 16 or 17. That's when they want to talk.
Yeah,
they want to be. It's starting to get like a bit more like, yeah, you know what? Like I have questions. Like I don't know. Do you feel that if you were like to coach men, that maybe you would be more comfortable with go like high schooler or something like that?
I mean, I think that there's just something special about those middle school years for both boys and girls. Just like the way that the human brain is developing, but we also, over time, like biology and science has shown that like men develop a little bit later than women. And so I think that like the insertion point, I think for boys that can be really powerful is like that 8th, 9th, 10th grade, where they've experienced a little bit more. But to an extent, I really feel like it goes back to like high quality, good coaching, right? Like a coach that has intention, a coach that has structure, a coach that's going to like cut through the bullshit for some of these kids and push them in ways they're not uncomfortable being pushed, because that's how you grow. And so, I've like never really thought about coaching boys, because I'm like, I don't, like, that's too much ego for me. Like because to be frank, some of y'all, I remember at in the network of schools that I work within, we have a boys' school, and they're like, you don't know how to play basketball. You're a girl. I said, let me just have him for 10 minutes. I took him back to class 10 minutes later. He was sweating buckets, and he was like, yo, she knows how to play basketball. I said, oh, okay. Anybody else want to say anything? And so it's almost like, I don't want to have to go through like the ego cut through that needs to happen for some of these young men, because I think it goes back again to like white male patriarchal society, in which men from the outset are taught they are better. They don't need to listen to women. I'm not even trying to deal with a lot of that, to be honest. What I would love to do, to be frank, is like develop strong women who then birth these boys and teach them the lessons from the beginning. So it's like, what's the insertion point? How do you like really create exponential change? I don't know if I'd really want to coach boys. I'd probably give it a go if I had an opportunity to do so. And I know they'd be good. Like, I know I'm going to win games. We're going to get buckets. But I think that they're like, for me, I think like I love the impact of working with girls so much that, it'd be fun to work with boys, but like it feels meaningful to work with girls in a way that's different.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got you about that. It's funny because last year my daughter, she wanted to start basketball. Like the first time, she never wanted to start basketball, but then like I'm gonna start basketball. So I was like, let's start a basketball team. So she went to her principal and she asked she did a petition actually in her school, like to make sure that we have like an all girl team and stuff like that. So we ended up having like 20 girls in the gym like 2 times a week, and it was a blast. Like the girl like enjoyed and stuff like that, and it was so much fun for me, like as a father, but just like and. When we brought in all the parents after like 20 practice, that they didn't know like what we were doing. Actually, they didn't know like over here basketball is not that big, so it's then like, okay, let me see like them playing. And I think for some parents, they're like, wow, like this is the first time I see my kid like smiling that much, like playing a sport and just like enjoying like being like a strong, like what did you say, like a strong woman, like. I think there's nothing like more beautiful than a girl that just like feels good in her skin and just go out there and just like, I like to like play hard and that's it. So because I have my daughter, like and Bianca, she knows a little bit who I'm talking about. Like she's 7, never seen like a fierce like girl like this in all my life. Just she's like skateboarding, basketball, anything, and she's like I can do it, like just like you said, like I can do it, like no problem. Like boys, what like she does like she's like crushing everyone like school. Like she's like, what do you mean boys? Like I don't care. And I just feel like you might be right though. You might be into something that we might be like if we put like more energy into like just teaching girls that like it's so strong. Like there's no reason that we like. I always say that we all athletes, and that's one of the slogans for the one of the campaign I'm doing is like we're just all athletes, and we should stop the like if you talk to a real athlete, and I'm sure you might have some friends like that. If you talk to a real athlete that play real ball or real hockey or real stuff, they'll tell you like girls hockey or girls basketball is the same thing. Like most like real athletes, you're gonna respect like you're gonna respect like you talk to a NBA guy and he talks about like the WNBA, he's gonna say, hey, those girls have like they got mad games like so. Yeah, it's just the people who don't know, who don't play basketball at, let's say, high level.
They be hooping.
They're the ones saying, oh, like, girls don't
straight
dunk
up
or stuff like that. Like, yeah, but, like, who cares? Yeah.
They make assumptions.
And they don't know the effort. They don't know the fire. I mean, Emilee, how important do you feel, Dom, and I know how Dom feels about this because his daughter is an absolute spitfire, and I'm so excited for her. How important do you think it is for, you're talking about, right, middle school and that high school is even too late to encourage that fire, to teach girls how to hone that, to also show them, hey, you might have some adversity when you go and say, oh, I play hockey or oh, I play basketball. And they're like, oh, but you play girls. And you're like, yeah, so I have to have more skills than you. Or like, be able to really look into that and hone it, but use it in a way that isn't combative. Because sometimes we see that with coaches, that they try and have girls wear it more as a chain link armor instead of it being actually a part of them.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like my real answer is like, I want us to move as a society to a place where it's not even a conversation that a woman has to have. Right. Like, does it really have to still be this, like, you're a girl, so you can't, like, how do we begin to craft the way that we are raising our children so that it doesn't become a girls are less than narrative that we even have to debunk? But to be honest, I want to teach these young women to be super confident. I want to teach them to have, the ability to compete irrespective of the level, and have opportunities to compete at every level, right? Like the fact that, there's no professional women's hockey leagues like that you could have gone into after college. Like, why? For what reason? And how do we make sure that there are spaces that we're creating so people can continue to do what they love to do? And of course, like, it's not always going to be able to be monetized and turned to a huge, big league, etc. But I think if we, as a society work to make sure that there is more gender equity, we don't even have to have those types of conversations that unfortunately so many people who blaze trails for us, Billie Jean King, like there's so many athletes out there who were the first to do something and had to deal with ridiculous amounts of discrimination on the basis of gender, discrimination on the basis of all these different factors that like we're trying to get to equity here. Like, there's no reason that men should get to do it and women don't. And if a woman tries to do it, that she's looked at as like, well, are you trying to be a boy? It's like, no, I'm trying to be a woman. Like, I'm just trying to be a woman, like a woman who loves to do X. And so why does that make me into being a man? Why do I have to be categorized as a tomboy? Like, why can't I just be an athlete?
I'm like getting chills. I'm like, the damn tomboy thing. Well, what I will say is, as a correction, is when I was in high school, there was no professional league for women, but now there is the PWPHA for women as well as the NWHL. But they're obviously, still dealing with their own things. The Isabel Cup had to get rescheduled twice because of COVID, and yet men are still out here playing NHL games left and right.
Yeah.
That all being said, so we usually at one point try and ask, we've already asked what's your purest sports moment, but as a coach, what has been a moment, like your NFT moment, right? Like, as a coach, what is something that you could have that you wish that there were video cameras around that you could hold forever? Because I love talking to you as an athlete, but I feel more passion in your words when you talk about coaching.
I'm not going to say the child's name because she'll probably come find me and be like, yo, why did you say that? I've coached a number of young women, and nothing is more inspiring than, and this happened multiple times. So there's like a couple of girls I'm thinking about, but one specifically, nothing is more inspiring than when you have a young woman who keeps telling you she can't do something. And then she does it. And then she does it in a moment that's like pivotal for her team. So I've had a scholar who, like, for some reason, she was just like, I can't shoot layups. I can't shoot layups. And like, we would do mad drills. And I'm like, at this point now, you can't do it because you choose not to do it. Like, you're literally putting up a mental block. And to watch this young woman, we were playing in a game, and it was a game that, you know, the team was doing really well in. But then like the other team started catching up, and to watch her, she scored the winning shot on a layup in a game. And it was just like, she's just crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? And she's like, Coach, I did it. And I was like, I've been waiting for you to do it. I've known all along that you could do this. I was waiting for you to catch up. Like, welcome to the party. Can we really hoop now? Like, are you done? Can we really hoop? And she was like, I got you, Coach. And she ended that season as one of my like strongest players, right? Like it was like watching her blossom right there in real time, because she like got out of her own way. And not saying like I did that. I think it was, of course, like a group of folks who continued to like nurture her greatness and push her, and, you know, stay, like my assistant coaches stay extra hours to coach her, give her more at bats. But it's really is that moment when like practice meets the moment, that I've seen happen for many of my girls who start off not confident, but then when the moment arrives, they're able to pull themselves up and meet it. And I think that is where a light bulb switches for many of these young kids. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, so take that and go do it in math class, and take that and go do it in this part of your life. Like you've now proven to me that you can no longer say can't. Like, loving basketball, can't shouldn't be in a man's vocabulary. I don't think can't should be anybody's vocabulary. You've now proven to me, you've proven to yourself that you can actually do that when you decide to be vulnerable and try. I want you to take that same level of vulnerability, that same level of courage into everything else in your life that you're going to do. And so it's like those moments are the ones that I always like when I watch like a girl who's like, I can't shoot jump shots, like hit her first jump shot in the game, and like middle of the game she runs off the court to hug me. I'm like, the game is still going. Get on the court, right? Like, it's like those moments have just always been so, for me, like magical, to be honest, as a coach and as a human, where you're seeing somebody like that preparation meets the moment, and they finally get a chance to show themselves who they can really be and how confident they can be. And that's just always really special.
Cool.